This is going to be one of our only stops without getting there by canoe. So I guess to get to the glacier from Brooklyn Creek, we would wait for the tide to rise as high as possible, jump in the canoe, paddle up the harbor, up the Courtney River to the junction of the Pentlatch with the Solom. We can't paddle anymore there, so then we got to walk all the way up the Pentlatch till we get to Comox Lake. Then I guess we can get into a different canoe, paddle across Comox Lake, hop out of the canoe, and then walk up to the glacier. So we'll still take the canoe as much as possible, but the goal is to get to the glacier. So I mentioned the white whale. You guys are you're probably familiar with the Pentlatch flood story and the white whale, right? It's not an accident that there's a white whale on the big house right across the way. It's not an accident that there's a white whale right here on this thing. And so the white whale is tied to the Pentlatch flood story. Every Coast Salish, just to put this into some context, every single Coast Salish nation has a flood story. I assume most of the northern ones do. And invariably, the floodwaters rise, and that local group, most of them die, but they tie off to the highest mountain in that valley. You go all the way down to the Puget Sound, people are telling you exactly the same story. It's just a slight difference in a different mountaintop. And for the Pentlatch people, their flood story occurs well after the time of the first sort of indigenous colonization of this land. It's not set in glacial times, it's set in much more recent times when the people are sort of plentiful on the land. And then the story always goes that one of these Seawin, right, these clairvoyants get the message that this is going to happen, right? You got to prepare for this flood. All the bad people are going to die. And in this case, the Pentlatch story, the Seawin tells 4 families to get their stuff together, and they pile together kilometers worth of rope and months worth of food and put it in their biggest canoes. And sure enough, the water starts to rise. Here, first of all, before the water rises, it says the water goes way out. It goes way out, and the women have to go really far to collect fish off the beach, which I haven't wrapped my head around what that means yet. But the water goes way out. Then the water comes back up so high that the canoes that are anchored to the village here, right at the mouth of the river, it breaks the ropes, and the canoes float around sort of aimlessly in the harbor until this white whale shows up. A white whale, it's not just a regular whale, like it's a spiritual whale. It's a class of one of these spiritually potent animals that live out there. And the whale nudges these canoes along to the highest mountain peak, safely sets them there, and then as the waters recede, it leaves the whale behind in the glacier. And the name for the glacier in Pentlatch is Queneesh, means whale. It's a generic whale. Is it a special type of whale? White whale. It's a white whale, obviously. Yeah. And so for Pentlatch people, this is a really visible and tangible reminder of their history, right? There's almost nowhere you can go in the Comox Valley without seeing that whale up there on the mountain, which is the glacier. And because those Pentlatch people, those 4 Pentlatch people, 4 is always the magic number, survived the flood. They all have the rights to this crest, right? Because they all were saved, selected, chosen to be saved. And so the whale is this spiritual being, right? It's potent, it's powerful. I've never actually heard of Comox people going up there to spirit quest with this whale, but I fully expected something people would have done in the past. It's exactly the right sort of thing. It's also quite dangerous up here, and a lot of these most spiritually potent places are also the most dangerous as well. You have to be really, really, really prepared to get there. And an idea I want to dwell on for just 1 minute is just like this idea that you have a stewardship responsibility to your ancestors, right? You have to take care of them. You also have a stewardship responsibility for these spiritual beings that live in around the world. I'm not sure the name in Comox or Pentlatch, but in Hunkaminam, it's Stalakum. There's a whole class of these spiritual beings that are really potent. The double-headed serpent is one of these Stalakum. So the Stalakum have the ability to give great power or do great harm. And you have, as a person of this land, would have the stewardship responsibility to take care of that being, so in turn it can take care of you. And I understand the whale to be very spiritually potent, and presumably is giving some sort of spiritual gifts to the community, but quite literally, like it's giving water to the community, right? In the most literal sense, it's a giant block of ice, and when it heats up, that ice moves down the river, keeps the river nice and cold, and as long as the river is nice and cold, the salmon come up happily, and abundantly. And as long as the salmon are coming up happily and abundantly, the Pentlatch people can eat the fish and everybody's happy, right? So it's simple water cycle, salmon cycle moving together, but an obvious example of how these spiritual beings out on that landscape can function or act to take care of the Indigenous people of their land.